Hi, welcome to the show. I'm Chelsea Reber. Today we are talking about contract training and customization. And on the show with me today is Eric Dul. He is the Senior Director of Manufacturing for FUJIFILM Diosynth Biotechnologies, Texas. And we've got Jenny Ligon also on. She is the Associate Director of NCTM. If you find this video helpful or interesting, please leave a like below and comment your favorite parts. Guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Jenny, I'm going to start with you because I think we need to just kind of get the definition out there. What is contract training?
Okay, so this is something that is very much in demand for this industry in particular because it's changing so rapidly. And what we have and what we've built over the years of development and curriculum training program building, we have a ton of off-the-shelf training. We have about 24 courses, about 250 to 300 individualized modules. And the benefit of those individualized modules is that we can kind of cut and paste to match what a company's needs are, okay? So every biopharma company is gonna have their own proprietary internal processes, and they're not gonna give that away because that's their secret sauce. But we wanna try to get them as close as possible and get people trained so that they can add value as soon as possible. And so that's where the customized training and the contract training kind of piece comes in there. We listen to companies with their specific needs, and we say, okay, you need this, you don't need that, you need to cover this, and we don't need this, and we can cut and paste and piece together a customized program for them. So we try to match what they're doing in-house as close as possible.
So what does the process look like to get into your training program?
It's quite simple. A company will approach us and say, we need to bring on X number of people, or we need to train X number of people, and what do you have to help us out with that? And we literally have a database of modules that they can pick through in every unit operation that they have in-house. They can say, I need this, I don't need that, I need this unit operation. We don't do column packing, we do bioreactor assembly and steaming, sterilization, whatever. You know, we have every unit operation that's covered from vial to vial is what I like to say. So we cover that entire process, and they just come in and it's kind of a laundry list. They check off what they need, we piece it together, we let them know if there's going to be a delay in customizing some things, if there's some aspects that we've left out or they did not see covered, then we could do some curriculum development for them. But it allows us to get something back to them very rapidly.
Okay. And so, Eric, you're here because you've had this experience. So
Correct.
From the company's perspective, what is the experience like?
So I think the experience is very positive, right? So we, together with Jenny's team, we really form a partnership, right? It's a collaboration between the two groups to really get a lot of the technicians trained, right? So most of the training that we rely on from Jenny's group is for all the technicians that work at either NCTM, FBF, or TBF, and it's a very positive relationship because we do have a lot of people, especially over the past couple of years, where a lot of people joined the company and we grew so rapidly. That partnership with Jenny's group has really allowed us to very quickly get technicians trained and on the floor, right? So right now we have every 2 weeks we have cohorts that go through training for the initial training for technicians. So once they join the company, they go through an HR training for a couple of days, and they're immediately placed into these cohorts with Jenny's group, and they go through a several-week, basically, introductory training to what we do on the floor, and then after that training, the technicians are released to us, where we go through additional training for specialized, basically, training in the positions where they will be placed, right? It's really that relationship between the two groups has really made it possible for us to grow so quickly and make sure that we have a very compliant and very well-trained workforce when the technicians step foot on the floor, right? So it's been very positive.
Great. Viewers, listeners, if you have a friend or a family member interested in learning more about biotechnology, please share our videos with them. Jenny, I'd love to know, what is the training feedback loop?
Okay, so this is something that's very critical, and anybody that does workforce development or training program development knows that you have to have that feedback loop, because whenever we deliver a first class based on a brand new compilation of unit operations that we piece together for training, it's going to hit, there's going to be bumps, right?
Correct.
And the reality is that we've we've put through more than 20 cohorts of onboarding for Fujifilm.
Wow.
And so that's over 200 people, and we've done that within about an 18-month period.
Right, yeah.
And the good thing about that feedback loop is by the 22nd cohort, we are well-oiled machines with that. So we that feedback loop is, and it's iterative, right? So we request feedback from the participants, and that goes to the training department, that goes to Eric and the rest of his staff, and they review it and say, okay, this is working, this isn't working, and we keep making tweaks. We keep making those tweaks, and then we just dial it in, and so that allows us to become more efficient. Just be able to have quicker throughput.
Yep. And then also on our end, what we look at is after that training, we look to basically partner up with Jenny's team to provide our technicians with more intermediate training, more advanced training, right? And that's something that's, we've thought about over the past couple of years, especially over the past 18 months, where we look at our workforce and say, hey, what are we missing here, right? What extra training do we need for our group in order for our technicians to be set up for success when they're on the floor on a daily basis? Sure. And we've done trainings that dive in deeper into the trainings that were performed at the beginning of their employment, right? So there's three main areas in our company, where one is support services like buffer and media preps. Another one is an upstream basically area and a downstream area, right? So and we've contracted with Jenny's group to really do a lot more deeper dives into those areas. So for instance, like Jenny was saying, the like bioreactors, right, or potentially like cell expansion type stuff, right? Things that are a little bit more in depth is where we take basically those groups that have a little bit of experience on the floor and put them through those trainings in order for them to gain more knowledge. And it's just been a wonderful experience, because sometimes we're focused on manufacturing, right? We may not have either the facilities or the bandwidth to pull people away and do that in-house. And it's a perfect basically addition to our training program to really pull them away from that, put them in Jenny's program, and when they come back, we go through that, basically that feedback, and say, hey, what did you learn? What's something that we could do better with this? Is this beneficial for us, right? Because obviously there is an investment in that,
Sure.
right? So we want to make sure that the investment is right, and we get that payback as far as making sure that there are technicians, supervisors, managers that have gone through some of the trainings, take that back and really apply it to the daily operations. So. And we've also done a lot of other trainings where we go into specific areas, for instance, or specific product lines. Like we did a week-long intensive gene therapy training with all of our supervisors at first, and we talked about this this morning, where we're looking at basically putting in more and more people to give them that experience, to go in depth, basically take them away from the floor, from the daily activities, and say, okay, you're going to go into this for a week, right? I know it's a lot to really dedicate your time, but it's very beneficial for you to really take an in-depth look at, what is gene therapy, right? You may know from daily operations that the gist of gene therapy, but her training, right, is going to put you through, and you're going to know the in and outs of gene therapy, and it's going to make you a better technician, or it's going to make you a better supervisor, right? And overall, it's going to make us better as a company. And that's basically that complement there is perfect, because sometimes we get caught up in that that daily grind.
Sure.
And we can't do that, right?
Yeah. Jenny, you mentioned some bumps. Are there any trainings you were hoping you would be doing that are being held up?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reality is as we've mentioned in previous episodes, we are a small but mighty team. And the factor is that, there's a bandwidth issue with this training.
Okay.
you can't put 50 people through a hands-on training. And I think, that's the reality. A cap is about 10, maybe 12 participants per cohort. And so you're always going to hit that bottleneck of a throughput issue, right? We can't just do training after training. We can't do training in the evenings and the weekends. And I'm sure that Fujifilm would be happy if we did, and our other clients would be very happy if we could do that. But, I think we really need to figure out mechanisms where we can serve broader audiences. And one of the things that we've mentioned and I think previous episodes, is where we can utilize curriculum sharing and curriculum licensing to train other institutions that are in regions that have rapid biopharm growth, and just teach them to use our content, make sure that they have the right equipment, the right instructional staff, and just help them be able to multiply the training to serve those areas, because there's not a whole lot of us out there, these educators that put on programs like we do. And we all know that there's a major shift coming in the industry, and with cell and gene therapy and everything that Eric was just describing, the growth is going to be exponential. And this is the wave of the future of medicine. So we need to try to keep pace.
Yeah, speaking of growth, Eric, what are some of the contract manufacturing organizations' training needs in the near future?
In the near future, it's really, I think it's that specialized training, right? I think it's really a broad spectrum of needs, right? You can't just say, okay, we're going to focus on this because this is the thing that'll get us to the future. I think gene therapy, obviously, like you said, it's growing at a very fast pace, right? So that's something that we will be looking forward to continuing to contract with Jenny's group to provide that training for our group, but also any other product lines that are becoming very or growing really at a very fast pace, like mRNA, right, is one. We have a very robust MAB group at Fuji down here in College Station. So that's something that I think we'll be looking forward to really providing those insights for our technicians and for our supervisors, for our managers, right? Is to know the in and outs of the products that they're working on. And even though the gene therapy right now, the gene therapy field is growing exponentially, there are others, right, that are growing at a very similar pace that we will need support in training in the future.
Jenny, what challenges have you faced in developing the contract training program?
I think it's taken a bit for industry to just recognize to invest in this, okay? Because, and I'm not knocking this industry in the least, because being in workforce development as long as I've been with multiple industries, the first thing to go when times are tough is training. That is literally the first thing that always goes. And so I think what is happening is a shift, certainly in this industry, where they are realizing, big pharma, and Eric and I were discussing this morning, big pharma, they do it in-house. The Mercks and the Pfizers and the AstraZenecas and, all of them do it in-house just because they have such proprietary processes, and it doesn't make sense for them to outsource all of that. They just do it in-house, right? But you're going to have a lot of the contract development and manufacturing companies, small pharma, mid-sized pharma, that don't, they're not going to invest, first of all, in having that. They're not going to have dedicated labs just to do training in, because you don't want to do training in the same space you're doing manufacturing, right? That's just going to contaminate everything. So, the big thing is, and it really, and I think honestly, COVID has just opened up so much of our eyes. It really has to the fact that we need people. We need people now. We need trained people. We can't do it in house. We can't do it all by ourselves. And so that's really kind of been the thing. Is just it's a awareness, a learning thing, and I think it's just been industry-wide. Do you have stuff to add to that?
No, I think, just playing off your comment about training being one of the first things to go, I think it's a wrong approach, right? Obviously, training is crucial to making sure that you go from vial to vial, right? And if you're skimping on training, you're going to pay for it in the long term, right? So whether it be the cleanup work, which we call deviations, and parts of the process that are involved with dispositioning of batches and making sure that they're safe to put out to the market, right? So it is really important for us to really invest in training and making sure that we have very robust training programs, which contract training is a vital part of.
Yeah.
So especially for, like you said, for companies that are CMOs, CDMOs, right, where a lot of the things that we're developing and working on on a daily basis, maybe something on a cutting edge, right? So, and it's something that, some companies may not have the expertise with, right? So, and then right now, being that we're right here at Texas A&M, there's a lot of really smart folks that participate in this program that are part of your group, part of your training, right? So like, what better way to really tap into those resources is really contract, right? And not really lose the time with developing maybe some of those resources in house, and really get your folks trained, and so that they can participate in production or development of the cutting edge drugs, right?
Besides just the importance of it, which you just talked to, what is the most important takeaway from your contract training program?
I think the most important takeaway is really the amount of work maybe that has been, I would say, taken off our plate, right, as we were growing so quickly over the past at least over the past year and a half. So, without that, we really wouldn't be able to really get all of our folks trained in that quick of a time. So,
Okay.
I think that's really the most important takeaway out of that.
Viewers and listeners, just a reminder, if you're interested in doing work with NCTM, you can send us an email at the address below, and we'll see what we can do to fill your needs. Guys, a couple more things I want to ask before we wrap up. Eric, what are your best success stories from contract training?
So from contract training, best success stories. We talked about this morning a little bit. It's that class for gene. It was an intense class, basically, for gene therapy, week-long class, right? And we do have a lot of experience with gene therapy. That's really our bread and butter. But sending our supervisors at that time and some of the lead technicians to that class. I think I took a little bit of a gamble with that, because those should be the most experienced folks, right? That we're basically putting through this training. So they should know that, right? They should know all the ins and outs that you were actually teaching them in the class, right? But I said, okay, but I'd like to basically standardize our the knowledge of our supervision, right? Knowledge of our managers. And I want to put them through there, and I want to assume that they don't know basically the ins and outs, right? Have them start from scratch, right? So that when they come out of this training, they're pretty much have the same kind of knowledge base, right? Okay. From experience, they, some of them are more experienced than others, but with the basics, they're basically more or less standardized across the board with their knowledge base. And I've even had some people come up to me before this training. They're like, hey, you know what? I've been in this industry for 20 years. Why are you putting me through this? Right? And I said, just go, right? I want to see this. One thing is that I would like to see is kind of what the quality of training is, right?
I knew that was the answer.
Oh, yeah, you're testing him, absolutely.
It's kind of an audit, right?
Yeah.
Right? And, I don't think you should be surprised, though.
No,
right?
it's fine. I understand. I completely understand. It's the nature of the beast.
We do send people that are like, okay, go over there and make sure.
Do they know what they're talking about?
What they're talking about. What does this look like, right? Is this really worth, spending money on, right? And this was a Monday through Thursday, I believe, class. And I remember going into work on Monday, and several people pulled me aside, and they were like, that was the best training ever. Yay! I was like, thank you very much for putting me through this, right? And I was like, well, what did you learn, right? And obviously they're starting off with all the ins and outs, basically behind the science, and how you guys dove right into a lot of the things that they may not know from like the daily, interactions with either the clients or the daily work that they do on the floor, or maybe some of the stuff that they've, experienced in the past. But and at the time it was actually someone that I hire up, and they had about 25 years of experience overall through big pharma, gene therapy also, right? And they were like, this is a really good training, right? Awesome. And this is something that we can definitely take a bit further, right? And then with the next training, we'd like to put our lead techs through, and I think at the time it was about a limit of about 10 people for the class, right? And you guys put them through the ringer, right? I think they were in the labs as well, right?
Yep.
On downstairs over here in the NCTM building, and it was very beneficial, right? It was beneficial from everyone who has been either through different walks of life, whether they come from a big pharma environment where they're cranking out the same thing on a daily basis, very familiar with a product that they're working with, to people that have a lot of CDMO experience where they have a broad experience with a lot of different, basically, either therapies or drugs, right? So, and I think this morning we spoke about the other two classes that you have on the schedule, right? And we're talking about filling those up. I was like, hey, don't forget, we want to put them through.
I know, right?
We have more people to put through the.
It's not my fault out there. All the other companies, Fujifilm is taking up all the spots.
It's like, yeah, you got to prioritize us. We share a building, right?
Right there.
We share a building, so.
That actually leads me to a great question, because you guys are right next door, you're right here, but do you do contract training for companies that are remote or that are long distance, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And that's part of the kind of the aspect. We with another contract manufacturing organization, or CMO as we refer to them, a company that's out of Oklahoma, and they weren't going to send people here 6 hours away just to send hundreds of their employees to do a customized onboarding program for them. So we actually did a train the trainer program with them, and we licensed the curricula so that they delivered it in-house.
Okay.
And so we still audited the training on an annual basis, biannual basis. We still issued the continuing education units and completion certificates for them. We vouched for the ability of their trainers, right? They became certified trainers of the curricula. So that is a way for us to obviously serve much broader audiences. So we can work with educators and curricula share that way. We can work with other companies.
Okay.
We can bring them in the house and train them here. But that is clearly an option, is also to do that.
Yeah. What are your hopes for contract training in the next 5 years?
Okay, yeah, I have a big dream on that. So again, as stated earlier, like all of us educators that are out there, we know that we can't serve the industry's needs enough. And so what I would like to see more of is that curriculum sharing, that licensing, whether it be with companies, whether it be with other educators. And I would like to give another shout out to, if you've listened to us in previous episodes, the National Institute for Innovation and Manufacturing Biopharmaceuticals, NIMBLE, has funded a project where we are the lead, Texas A&M is the lead on, and NCTM is leading that, where we're working with 4 other universities across the United States, all minority-serving institutions, and we're going to replicate our certificate training program there at their facilities. So NIMBLE's helping them purchase the equipment. We will transfer the curriculum. We will train their trainers, make sure that they're ready to get out there, and help them figure out what a recruiting process looks like for students. And hopefully they'll have as much success as NCTM has had, because the industry is just only going to get bigger.
Sure. All right. Well, both of you, thank you so much for joining us today on today's episode of Contract Training and Customization. You can learn more about our available trainings by visiting our website at nctm.tamu.edu or by viewing our Facebook page. And if you didn't find a course that fits exactly what you're looking for, check back regularly to catch new courses. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm Chelsea Reber for Eric Dul and Jenny Ligon.